So in the last program we have written a mapper, we have written a reducer, we have written driver class. So driver class is the entry point, so we know that. So from there we are calling all this mapper and reducer, right? So if I didn't write a mapper, if I didn't write a reducer, what will happen? What will happen, right? So that's I'm gonna show you now. That is I'm going to show you. So if I didn't write a reducer, if I didn't write a mapper, so what will happen? So let's see that. Let's see that. So that is called identity mapper, that is called identity reducer. So that is the default mapper, default reducer. If you didn't write any mapper, if you didn't write any reducer, there is something called default mapper, default reducer. Default mapper and default reducer. Sorry guys, my tool is not responding properly. Default mapper and default reducer. What is the default mapper? What is the default reducer? It means you are, so if you see in the last class, let me open that. I have written my own map logic. I have written my own reduce logic. Correct? If I didn't write my own logic, what will happen? If I didn't write my own logic, what will happen? If I didn't write reducer logic, if I didn't write mapper logic, if you didn't write driver logic, you cannot launch a job. That's that is the way the driver class is used. That if you don't have a main method, you cannot execute any Java program. No, correct? Let me close this. Let me close this. It's not responding. If you guys remember, in the last class, we have written our own mapper class. We have written our own reduce class. Let me close this. I can close all at a time, but I don't want to close few things, so that's why I'm selecting one after one, right? So let me close these things. Yeah, 6:30. I need that. I also need this. I also need this. Okay, this is I can remove. This also I can remove. I don't need it. Okay, this is it's not six. This is not 6:30. Maybe due to memory issue, it is little. Okay, let me close this. Okay, now yesterday what we have done in the last class, we have written our own mapper logic and we have written our own reduce logic. We have written our own reduce logic. After that, we have written a driver class. The driver class is the entry point to call your mapper and reducer. To call your mapper and reducer, right? This is the entry point to call your mapper and reducer. So where I specifying my this is my mapper, this is my reducer. If I didn't write anything, if I didn't write anything like this, look at guys, like this. I have a driver class, I have a main method, I have a job. Nothing I written here. I didn't write anything here. I didn't write anything here. I just given input path, output path. Nothing else. I didn't write anything else in this. If you see here, I didn't write my mapper, I didn't write my reducer, I didn't write my um, map method logic and reduce method logic. I didn't write the input formats. What is the input format? What is the input you have key input value, output key output value? What is the mapper output? What is the reducer output? I didn't specify them in this driver class. I just written as plain old class. Correct? I just written a plain old class. What will happen? How it will work? So if you give, so, but it is taking input and it is taking output, right? It is taking input and it is taking output. So how it will work? How it will work? Let's look at, guys. So if you didn't write your mapper and if you didn't write your reducer, that is called your identity mapper. So let me open our project where we are doing a hands-on. This is our project. Here I'm going to show you identity mapper. Identity demo. Identity mapper and reducer demo. Or you can say default mapper, default reducer demo. Identity job demo. So I need a main method. Yes, I need a main method. I'm going to do this. So I need to extends configure. Guys, please try these programs. Please do hands-on. Until unless you do hands-on, it will be very difficult. I need to implement tool. What we will write in main method? It should become a habit of writing all the programs. So it should you should write by default. You should be able to write a program in your code. Okay, in your Java, whatever the program you're trying. Today is little slow. I don't know why. I don't know. To really slow this machine. I don't know what happened. Aux as aux only. Here I need to import a class. This one from here from Apache Hadoop. So while you're selecting, you please select correct configuration files, correct classes only. Until unless that, it will not. It will show error. So if you want to take result, you can take result here. Normally the result is not required, so you can take it like this. So why I'm taking the results? So if the result If the result is 0, success. If result is not 0, to print that, the nothing else. To print this message, nothing else. Okay, but in run method, I need to write something. In run method, what will writing? So you have to write your job, you have to write your set input power format, output format. That you can take it from anyway. That's common to all the classes. Let me make it bigger. Okay, this is common anyway. The job and setting your input path, setting output path, you're removing the file is already exists. These are all common. So when you know nothing to do with it. And submitting the job, wait for the completion, job dot wait for the completion. These are all common. Okay, I'm just taking this. You should not have two return types in the same line after the line. You can say this is args. Okay, it's no need to be word count job. You can say it is a identity job. You can just say job. So this no need to be job, job. This is also job. Okay, so save it. And to launch identity mapper, to launch a reducer, identity reducer, what we need to do? We need to launch this job into Mapreduce mode. So create a jar file for this. How to create a jar? Export, take jar, jar, next. You can specify that here, identity jar, jar name. Okay, I'm giving as identity. Identity job dot jar, finish. That's just a warning. You can say okay. The jar is created. In my case, the jar is created on the desktop. There is something called jars. There is something called jars. In the jars, I have something called identity job jar. This is the one we have created just now. This is the one we have created just now. So I'm going to execute the job in Mapreduce mode. Okay, so let's take, already have some program here. What is the command? Okay, let me say, let me take a refresh command. What's the command, guys? Can anyone tell me? Hadoop jar, I'm path of the jar, home, Hadoop, and jar desktop, jars. Okay, desktop and jars. After that, what is your jar? Identity job, jar. Then we complete class name, com.test. Dot, what is our thing? identity job demo, right? This is the one in your class name. Look at here. What is your class name? First the package, com.test is the package, and identity job demo. Identity job.demo, that's our class name. So you need to give your Hadoop jar is the command, and you have to give the path of the jar and how to go completely qualified your class name, driver class name. Then your input. So input, you can choose any of the input from your HDFS. The input you can select from any of your HDFS. Let's so select from here. Let's select from here. So I'm going to select here. From training, I'm selecting any of the small file. So let me select some small file. Let me select some small file. What is the stock? Stock has, this is the data. No, let me take another simple thing. No, it'll also make you confuse. So I'm taking which does not make you confuse. I want to take a simple. This is also confuse you. Let's take a stock data only. I think stock data will not confuse you. So first, before whenever you're going to write a program, first we need to understand the data. So here this is the stock data. So some the data is there which is comma separated, right? Which is something like a exchange. This is something called symbol, and this is called date, open price, and this is the open price, close price, high price, close price, low price, and volume, and what is the adjusted close. These are the data. So this is kind of like a stock data. We'll call it a stock ticks data, or you can call it as a stock data. This data I'm using as a sample data. It's a very simple small data. So it's not even huge data, it's some kbs of data. So this data file I'm using. This data file I'm using as input. I hope everyone understand the input. Input is very simple, the simple data. Now I'm giving this input to my identity mapper. So what is your identity mapper? I didn't write any logic, right? I didn't write any logic here. You can see I didn't write any logic. Okay. I'm going to give output also saying that identity test. Identity test. Try to understand the parameter, guys. Hadoop jar path and fully qualified your driver class name or input and output. Input path is where from which input you want to process, and the output path is after processing the data where you want to keep. Press enter. It started launching the job. It's connected the resource manager, trying to talk to the resource manager. As soon as you launch a job, I mean when you're running the job, you can also see UI of resource manager. This is your UI. Localhost, you can say 8088 when your cluster or when your setup is running. Press enter. When you press enter, it will list out you what are the jobs are running, and see here apps pending, the apps running, the apps pending and apps running. The current job is this is the one. This is running. The job which we have executed. This it shows like a word count, but it's actually we're supposed to change this name. We didn't change the name. It is showing that this is running now. You can go and see in the terminal. Still it is running. You can see the job ID here. What is the job ID? 006. 006. You can go and look at here. 006. Right? 0006. It is launched. It is running. Right? It is accepted. The job is accepted and it started running. What is the queue? There is something called default queues. We'll talk about that. There is a FIFO. There are different kind of queues. We'll talk about it. schedulers. It's running very slowly because due to, I think, RAM is not available. The map is completed, but even though we didn't write a map logic, how the map is executed, even though we didn't write the reducer, how come the reducer is executing? What is the reason behind it? So there is something called default mapper, the default reducers. So if you didn't write your own reducer and own mapper, it will execute the default mapper and default reducer. That is called identity mapper. That's called identity reducer. Okay, the job is success. You go back and see your results. So you can refresh it. So because it is actually do auto refresh, but due to the memory problem, it is not. Okay, the job is completed, finished. The job is finished. So you can see here by clicking on the job, you can see the statistics of it, and you can see the logs. You can do, you can go and look at the logs here. This is the where in the real time you'll see the logs, guys. Please, so we'll be confusing. So where to see the logs? How to see the logs? This is where you'll see the logs. Click on this. Whether it's a failed job or success job. So after clicking on the job, you can go and see the logs. Click on that, and it will take you to. It will not take in this much time. It will immediately take you to logs folder. Okay. In my case, it is taking this much time because due to the resource problem, I'm running so many things. That is the reason. So here you have a system errors, system out, syslogs. So whichever the logs you want to, you can click on that log. You can go ahead and look at. So there is no error logs. Okay, there is no error logs. And sometimes it will show some information and it will show that you can see full log. See here, click here to see the full log. If you click on this, it will restore the complete log. So in the real time, this is the important thing we need to understand. In the real time, or whenever you submit a job in the cluster, this is how we'll see the log. This is how we see the log. Okay, so if you find any errors, the errors will be there in this. You can find the errors and what is error, we can easily identify it. Okay, let's go back and see the result. Let's go back and see the results. So what is the input output path we have given? We have given identity underscore test. Identity, not underscore, identity test. Identity test is the folder name. In this, we see the success file. Success file means if you see underscore success, if the file is created, it means that your job is success. If it is not created, it means your job is not success. So part -r -0 means this is the reducer output. Part R means it will say the reducer output. So what happened, guys, here? When I take the identity mapper, when I take the identity reducer, so the same output, whatever the input I have given, same output, but I have been getting some extra information. What is this extra information? This is called offset. This is called offset. What is the offset? What is happening when I execute the, you guys understand something here? You guys able to see something here, right? What is this? Why I got some extra numbers here? So I'm going to explain that now. So as soon as if you didn't write any your mapper or reducer, there is something called default mapper, default reducer. What is the default mapper, default reducer? Let's take an input file, guys. First I'm going to show you with a simple input file. This is my input file. In this I have something called hi all, how are you, how are you, how is preparation, Hadoop is open source, Hadoop is open source, HDFS is for map, HDFS is for storage, Mapreduce is for some storage. This is my data. Okay, so when I give this data, what type of data it is? Please unmute and talk, everyone. Please unmute and talk everyone. I want the responses from you guys. So what type of data it is? The file name is, let's say, sample. Guys, what type of data it is? It is a text type of data. If it is a text type of data, text text type of data, what is my default input format for my MapReduce? So let me draw.
Text input.
I have my HDFS this, and I have something called sample. Okay, sample.txt. So as soon as I give this as input to my MapReduce, so what is my input format? Input format, text input format.
Text input.
If it is a text input format, if it is a text input format, if it is a text input format, I'll be getting something called input splits. The input splits is based on your input format. So I got some input splits. Let's assume the three input splits, three or two, whatever it is. Take the number. Input splits. What is this input split? This input split is a, guys, this is a very much important entry question. What is input split? Okay, we already discussed about it. What is input split? So based on the input format, the input splits will be created. So this input place tells that an offset from where to where it has to read. The inputs will split will say that from where to where you have to read by single mapper. Let's say if I divide this into three input splits, this is one input split, let's assume that, and this is another input split, three input splits. So one, two, three, it means three mappers will be launched. So the first input split says that you start reading from here and you end reading here. That is called starting and ending position of your input split. So that who will read that? There is some guy called record reader. There is some guy called record reader who will read the file into record by record. Who will read by record by record. Who is that guy? Record reader. Record reader is, what is a record reader? Record reader is an object who will read the line by line and who will convert into key value pair. Who will convert that record into key value pair. After reading, what he will do? Line by line. When he read the first line, he will give that first line to map. He will give the first line to your map. Now your map is started executing on the specific first line. Okay, so we know that your map is required key value pair. To execute your map method, what we need? Key value pair. I'm going to write a map method here. So my map method required key comma value. Anyway, context will be there. I'm not going to talk more about the context. So I need a key value pair. What is my key? What is my value? Can anyone tell me? By seeing this data, by seeing this input format, by seeing this input splits and record reader, what is my key?
Key is the offset and value is the text.
Very good,
Complete
very good,
value.
very good, very good. Nice to hear. So your key is your K1. K1 is long writable, which is a long writable, which is a your offset. What is offset? We already discussed in the last class. Because it is an input format as a text input format, always your key will be offset. The offset will start with a 0. Your offset will start with a 0. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it will start with the 17 here. 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and so on. So these numbers are the offset. Let's say it is 30. Let's say it is 45. Let's say it is 50. It is 60. So these numbers are the offsets. These numbers are the offset. These are the keys. And this is complete value is a complete line is a value. Complete line is a value. So here, second, here, here, so my inside the method, I'll get the key as offset. First time It will come as a 0, comma, and value is complete line. Hi, all, how are you? This is my first key value pair which will come to the map. So this will be there in the key, this will be there in the value, correct? So your default mapper, is it doing any logic in it? No, it is not doing any logic. What it will do, whatever the key value pair is given by you, whatever the key value pair is given by you, the same output will be writing. It's not doing any logic. This is the default mapper. So whatever the key value pair you are giving, the same I'm writing back to reducer. Same thing I'm writing back to reducer. It means whatever the input is coming, I'm emitting as a key as offset, value as a complete line. Then it will go to whom? Reduce method. It will go to whom? Reduce method. Yeah, again your reduce method also require key value pair. Correct. Your reduce method also require key value pair. Correct. So now what is the key here? Offset only. Then what is the value here? Line only. So again same output will be emitted. So you will get a 0 here. Again you will get a high all and so on you will get. And your reducer also doing the same. Context dot write key comma value. It means by default it is not applying any logic. Whatever the input you are giving, the same thing is getting emitted as output. Whatever you are giving as input, same thing as emitting as output by adding a offset, because they need a key value pair. You have given a lines, how it will understand a key value pair. So your record reader will divide into key value pairs. So your record reader will add key and value. Your map and reduce is not doing any logic. They're just emitting whatever you are giving. They're just emitting whatever you are giving. So that is the reason it is coming like this. If you see before, the 0, 60, 121, these were not there. So these were not there. But after processing identity mapper, identity reducer, it is added, because the final output will be always key value pair. The final output is always will be key value pair. Even if you see in yesterday's program, we have a word number of times. Word number of times it occurred. So the same way, your Mapreduce always take a key value pair and always it will give you key value pair. So how the key has to display, how the value has to display will be decided by a developer. Any doubts still here? Any doubts? Anisha, Aparna, Ganesh?
No, Veera.
So is this clear what I have explained?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go ahead and show you. Let me go ahead and show you the classes, the default mapper class and default reducer class. So let me take from this repository. No, it's not able to. Let me take from some other repository. Actually, I'm thinking to show you the source code. So that is the only, nothing else. If I show you the source code, you can easily understand. Yeah, source code is I'm able to show you here. Look at guys here. This is your mapper class. The framework is given mapper class. You have a class mapper which takes a key in, key in, value in, key out, value out. This is the your mapper class. Your mapper class saying that I will take a key value pair, I'll give you a key value pair. Your mapper class, the default. I'm showing you a framework code. I'm showing you framework code. Internal inside that you have something called map context class. What is this map context class? It is inner class. Class inside the class is called inner class. What type of class it is? It is abstract class. Okay, so this is the one context class. Okay, come inside. You have a setup method. This setup method nothing to do in the. We are not doing anything in this. And you have a map method. Guys, this is important. Look at guys here. It is taking the key and it is taking the value and it's returning the same, right? Key and value. Nothing. It's not doing anything. Whatever the key it is taking, whatever the value it is taking, the same key and value is giving back, writing back to your hard disk as output. It will not directly write into hard disk. There is something called something called buffer. The buffer will call a circular buffer. We will talk point by point or topic by topic later. For time being, this output is going to hard disk. Let's assume that. So next to clean up, it means this is your map method, default map method. Default map method, what it is doing? It is taking the mapper and writing the mapper. It is taking the mapper, it's taking the key value pair, emitting the key value pair. And if you see who is calling this run method, this run method will be called by your framework, your Mapreduce framework, right? So that run method will be start executing. You will be get the current key, current value. Means I said first record it will read, no, first line it will read, right? The first line it will read and it will convert into key value pair, the converted by your record reader. The guy, there is a object called record reader. That record reader will convert into key value pair. So first current p, so whichever the line you are reading, give me that key. Whichever the value you are reading, give me that value. So this map method will go and talk to this guy, and this guy is doing nothing here. He's just emitting the whatever he's taking, he's just emitting. This is called default mapper. If you override it, in your mapper class by extending the mapper class, and you are overriding a newer class, then whatever the logic you are writing, it will be considered. Otherwise, it will be considered the default mapper, default reducer. So let's look at the reducer class as well. We also see the same reducer class as well. So we have seen a mapper class. So let's see a reducer class as well. One second, guys. I don't know. Today a little. Yeah. Here also see, guys. You forget about all this context, conf, row key value, counter. This all you don't need to worry about it at this point at least. I will take care later. The status report and all those things. So we just go ahead and see reduce method. Here also setup method is there in the reducer class. Nothing doing. We are not doing anything here. Here also we have a reduce method. It's also nothing doing here. It is taking the key value pair and writing the key value pair. It has to traverse through, no, there will be so many values may be possible, right? With a single key, multiple values are possible. That's why for each loop, which is writing into all the values into what are the key it is coming, what is the value it is. It is not applying any logic. Here also you have a run method who will take the key in that this one record reader. There is something called record writer. Who is record writer will be taking the key value pair from the output of mapper. That key value pair will be writing here, right? So not so your identity mapper, identity reducer is also one of the interview question. So what is identity mapper? What is the identity reducer? How it will work? They will ask. So this is how it works. This is how it works. Clear, guys? So that's why whatever the input that you were given, the output is came along with the offset. The output came along with the offset. This is called offsets. You can count it. Start with 0 and count the number of characters, including the space, including the all the characters. So you'll be getting the number of characters. Any doubts, guys? Yeah, yeah, that's it for today. So we will see the next topic in the next class. We will see next thing in the next class.